And here you are.
Hello, my
Amazing.
darling. How are you?
Hi. I was just introducing our conversation and waiting for the magic and you to appear. So welcome to the space. I already talked a little bit about you, but not as much as I would love to invite you to say whatever it is that you want to add. So I've already introduced you as a beautiful sister of mine and a gorgeous, incredible woman. And also, you are an amazing relationship coach. And I'm curious if there is anything specific that, or who you work with, or anything else that you would like to add.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. I work with empowered women who are looking for really high level, high caliber love. I also specialize in supporting women with communication, sort of embodied, heartfelt, conscious communication, so that they can really feel heard and understood by their partner and communicate in a way that the partner can actually hear and understand them, so that we get this like two-way conversation where people feel really heard and understood, which I believe is the basis to all long-lasting relationships. So thanks so much for introducing me and having me.
Amazing. Thank you. I was sharing that life is relating, right? That we are in relation to everything that happens to us. And I feel like everyone is looking for depth, everyone is looking for intimacy, but there are so many layers and so many maybe like hidden pathways that we avoid or learn to kind of numb or not go deep into the intimate connections. And I wonder what your journey has been, because I know that you are in a beautiful partnership. And maybe what are some of these tactics that we unconsciously bring into the relating and that hold us back from the deep intimacy and an incredible partnership that we desire,
Yeah,
or many of us.
yeah, no, it's a beautiful question. It's a beautiful and deep and complex question, and I will, yeah, speak to some of those aspects. Thank you. So what I would say is the ways that we can hold ourselves back from experiencing a deeper level of connection and allowing our heart to truly open and be met by another and be received by another. I would say the primary way that we block this is we try to avoid feeling our own emotions. So this might be fear, sadness, anger, frustration, resentment. Sometimes it can even be joy. Sometimes we've been conditioned that actually joy is not okay to express. But often it's the more deep, the sort of the lower vibration, the darker vibration energies that are more difficult for us to hold capacity for. And when we avoid feeling ourselves, it's actually not really possible to be in true connection with another. Some other ways that we might avoid the deeper connections are to blame or to shame somebody else, to make somebody else wrong so that we don't have to feel our own discomfort with maybe hearing an opinion that's different from our own, or being challenged in our views and who we are, and maybe even seeing parts of ourselves that actually, yeah, maybe the parts of ourselves are not fully in our integrity, and we feel something around that. There can be many things. Is there anything particular that's resonating for you or that you want us to go down?
Hmm. Maybe a little bit of your journey, if there was anything specific along, relating and maybe the way that you opened yourself up into receiving the partnership or creating or manifesting, whatever word that you want to use,
Yeah.
that you are in right now, and maybe a little bit about that experience and how that informed and inspired your work as well, because I'm sure that it's constantly inspiring some new insights, because relationships are never like the end, right? It's more like a growth together. So it's not about, I want to get into a relationship and I'm going to get it and that's it, that's done. It's actually where the work begins. So I'm curious
Yeah,
about that.
I'm noticing actually, like in my body, I'm wanting to lean forward to be with you. So I'm just going to move my camera back so I can sort of lean into this
Yes.
conversation in a way that feels good for me. Yes. So I'm just thinking, where do I start? Because yeah, like 15, 16 years worth of personal development behind me, and I guess there's a few layers. So the first thing was to believe that I was worthy of a deep and meaningful and heartfelt connection in which there was love, respect, mutual admiration, and like deeper connection than just, oh, we enjoy the same movies, and oh, we have the same friend circles, and oh, we like doing the same things externally, but actually an internal match as well, as in the way I think, the way I feel, the things that ignite me inside. I want to be met on those levels. So that was definitely a first place. But as I started to recognize those pieces, it wasn't always possible for me to stay in relationship with somebody who did meet me on those levels, because I had a lot of defenses. And the way that my defenses used to show up, I was highly anxiously attached. I know we mentioned that we might cover attachment styles in this, so maybe we'll talk a bit more about that. But I had extremely anxious attachment, which was linked to not really valuing myself truly, and also linked to just never having experienced a secure relationship before, and having certain things modeled to me as I grew up as a child. And my very anxious attachment meant that I needed reassurance constantly. Like I literally needed a partner to message me sort of like morning, lunchtime, and evening to say, yes, I love you. Yes, I'm still in this relationship. Yes, I care about you. Yes, I want to be in connection with you. And I thought that was normal. So I had no idea that the experience on the other side for my partner was a lot. It was a lot to need to affirm so much and to be in connection so much. So there were those pieces. And when I felt like I wasn't secure in a relationship, when I felt like maybe I wasn't getting that 3 times a day reassurance, and maybe like my partner got busy and he forgot to message me, or even if we'd had a disagreement and we needed to take some space, I would get so anxious, like I couldn't be with myself. I was literally like frantic. I didn't know, constantly checking my phone. Did he message now? Like checking his Facebook, because we only had Facebook in those days. Has he messaged on Facebook? What's his status update? Like stalking him and freaking out in my head, like, oh my God, right, I've blown it. He's left me. All of the really like negative thoughts, and I would spiral. I didn't know this was what was happening. I thought it was quite normal behavior at the time. And so when we did eventually come back into communication and he's like, oh yeah, I still want to be with you, then I would get really angry. Like, why did you put me through that? Why did you, stay out of connection for so long? Why did you make me go through all of these feelings and all of these emotions? And I would get very angry and blame, which did not create a good dynamic in the relationship at all. So there was a big learning for me there around, one, recognizing my attachment style, how that shows up, the type of men I was choosing that would actually exacerbate the attachment style. So, you have anxious attachment, and then you have anxious attachment in relationship with avoidant attachment, which is the worst possible combination. Yeah, exactly. And it's the one that we all go to because we're trying to heal the wounds, right? We're actually trying
Oh,
to heal the underlying wounds. But when we can start to become aware of this dance, we can choose a little differently, choose like, oh, maybe this isn't the dynamic that's really bringing out the best pieces in me, and maybe it's bringing out the worst pieces in me. But also there was a massive piece for me around taking responsibility for my experience, that actually all that anxiety, all that panic, all that frantic, that stalking, that, oh my God, has he left me? You know, is it over? All the mental stories that I was creating for myself, to recognize that he's not doing that to me. Like, I'm doing that to me. And that was one of the most significant game changers, was to realize like, wow, I'm creating those stories. I am creating this emotional turmoil for myself. And he's not doing that to me. And even if he's somebody who completely goes out of connection, avoids for days and weeks at a time, then I'm still doing it to me because I'm still choosing to be in relationship with him. So massive piece there. And when I could take those pieces inside, I no longer got angry with my partner, and I no longer felt the need to blame them and project on them and cause so many arguments, so many arguments. So I see you nodding there. Yeah, tell me, what's your story? What resonates with you?
I feel like there was just so much you went through that I'm curious about, and we could dive deeper. And maybe just for everyone who is watching, you know, taking the responsibility to know what our relational dynamic and templates are,
Yeah.
is the most important thing, because then we can shift that, right? And if we don't see it, then we are running on an autopilot that was put in there when we were 1 year old, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 7.
Yeah.
That's just kind of running our lives, and we are wondering like, whoa, how come I'm not in the relationship that I desire? And not this is not just partnership, even though that's probably for a lot of women who are watching and who are in our space a curiosity and something that they desire, but also friendships and in general, like all
Yeah.
relationships, and our close circle of people who, are a reflection of where we are at with our own inner journey and experience. And I can definitely also relate with the anxious attachment style and avoidant. I feel like, everyone can do this quiz online. You just put the attachment style quiz and you go there and you figure it out. And I'm sure you probably take your clients through that when they enter probably your spaces. But it's nice to know,
Yeah.
as we are touching on that. And we all, um, I don't, I mean, there are, like, you can be more of something. And for me, I feel like I have, 60% or something secure, and then the rest, all the other ones. So it's really fun to see that different people bring out different
Yes.
attachment dynamics.
Yeah.
And then what you said so beautifully is that taking the reflection or the mirror back, and I am choosing this relating, and maybe it does not feel right. So what can I do? Do I want to stay in this or not? Or there is maybe some kind of self-love journey I have to go on not to feel this. There's an experience that I had in the past with a few men in my life where I would really go like into redness in their presence, and they wouldn't even have to say anything.
Oh.
And it would be that little anxious girl, and that was having full on like physical experience. Like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't talk, I would be blushing and like shaking and would feel like there's nothing I can do. Like I am the weirdest person in the world right now.
Mm.
And anything that comes out of my mouth is weird. And I would have to remove myself. And then I would cry for like 2 hours by myself, picking these pieces up and loving myself up to the point where this doesn't happen anymore. But that was my experience. And I'm sure I'm not alone. That this is an experience of probably a lot of people who have that, like the anxious or even avoidant, whatever that, the dynamic is. There are parts of us that just don't feel good. And or I was wondering, like, what's wrong with me? Like, how is this happening? How am I feeling like this? So it was so important to understand that this is just a little girl that is needing attention. And I'm curious, if there is any techniques or any practices that you do or you have done, that for either attachment style, or maybe if you want to talk a little bit deeper about the dynamics that happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Thank you. Oh, thanks so much for sharing. I really feel like your inner mother energy, loving your little girl energy. And
Mm.
yeah, so beautiful. And I really feel for that moment where your little girl was standing there, like red faced, like, oh my God, I can't get this right. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And just feeling so much embarrassment in that moment of like, I need to remove myself because this situation doesn't feel safe for her. And I love that you were able to take that time to be with her and to care for her in that way. That's really precious. So thank you for sharing your journey with us in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think let me start here because there's a number of ways we could go with this. So most clients, when they come to me, they're very aware of what their attachment style is. They're very aware that they are more on the avoidant side or more on the anxious side, or sometimes I work with people who have what used to be called chaotic or disordered attachment. I think there's now a new term coming, which I much prefer. It's like dual attachment. It's where you have both. And I have a little bit of that in myself too. I used to be primary anxious, but once I actually healed the anxious attachment parts of me, I became avoidant attachment. And I was like, oh my God, now I have
I
to,
feel you.
oh my God, help me. Now I have to do the other side. But anyway, I've been through the works. I've been there, all of it, as I'm sure you have as well. So let me first start by naming that I work with the mindset, and actually I wrote a post on this just yesterday or the day before on my page, that I work with the mindset that we are not just like one person inside. We are parts. We are made up of many, many parts, and you can call these inner children if you want to. Sometimes they have archetypes like an inner mother, inner father, inner lover, inner warrior or warrioress, or, there's many different aspects to us, is another way of saying it. And each of these parts or aspects of us have their own opinion and their own needs and their own fears and their own desires and their own boundaries. So it's very, very possible that each of us has some parts which are anxious, and they get really scared and they freak out when the connection feels distant, and they get very clingy. They're young parts of us, so they're not our adult self, and that's why we sometimes feel very out of control in those moments. We feel like, why am I not behaving like, a grown adult here? Because actually the part of you that's really activated right now is probably very young, like maybe under 10 years old, under 6 years old. Sometimes they can be teenagers too. Some depends on where our wounding most happened. But it's very possible that we each have one or more parts that are anxiously attached and one or more parts that are avoidant attached. So depending on what the situation is that we're experiencing, different parts of us will come to the surface and be more dominant. So if I'm in a securely attached relationship like I am now with my partner, most of these parts don't get activated in me now. But if I have a couple of friends who are quite avoidantly attached, or at least in experience with me, they're avoidantly attached. So I notice my anxious attachment comes back when I'm with those people, because certain dynamics arise between us. They like to take a lot of space. Maybe they don't necessarily communicate to me that they're going to do that. Or I can feel energetically that there's something not spoken that needs to be spoken, but it hasn't got to the surface yet. And I'm picking up on that vibration, and I'm like, oh, why am I starting to feel really anxious around this person? And I can get to be curious around that. So I think what has been so helpful for me, and this is what I teach my clients, is really helpful for them too, is recognizing that we are made up of parts. We're not just a single being. And these parts are all younger than us, even if some of them might try to pretend that they're adults. They're all typically younger than us, but they'll be like, I'm an adult. It's like, no, you're just a little girl playing dressed up. but they can be very convincing at times too. Yeah. So I guess this leads us into the dynamics that can occur in relating. And yes, it happens with friendships. Any relationship, be it friendship, even a work person, if you allow them into your close space, whatever your close space is for you, that is where your attachment styles are going to show up. So somebody that you choose to feel close to, or someone that you choose to share vulnerability with, be it a friend, a lover, or family member, those are the people that ultimately have access to be able to hurt you, because you're letting your walls down, you're letting them into that intimate space with you. And that's where your dynamics are going to show up. So depending on how they show up, it is going to activate different parts of you. So if someone's showing up, maybe they're a little bit anxiously attached, and they're a little bit, their anxiety's coming out, and they're wanting to speak with you like every day and check in with you all of the time, and how are you, and you can sort of feel their anxiety. It might activate your avoidant parts, and your avoidant parts are like, whoa, this feels a little overwhelming, like I need space, I need less connection. Actually, I don't want to be in such a close dynamic. It feels overwhelming. But equally, if you have the opposite, somebody who they tell you that they love you and you're so important to them, and they really want this closeness with you and intimacy with you, but then you don't hear from them for like 2 or 3 weeks, and they don't reply to your messages, and you ask them a question and like they just leave you hanging, that's going to bring up some more of your anxiously attached parts. And you're going to be like, hey, like now I'm feeling vulnerable. Now I'm feeling like, hey, I thought we had this close dynamic, but I'm not feeling held anymore, and I don't know where I stand, and all of the things.
The question that's arising right now is, how does the secure attachment look like and feel like? Because I feel that we all know the other ones because they don't feel good.
Yeah.
And we are so used to them, right? Or at least I was in the past, before I realized that there is another way, and that it actually, the practices that I teach women about connecting to themselves and really feeling themselves and connecting to the womb and knowing the wisdom of the womb is basically coming home to the body and loving all these parts. So then we become safe within the body. But how does that look like in a relationship? Because it's another story when we are happy in our own body and safe in our own home. But then when the relating comes, it, as you said, when you allow someone into the closest circle, then all these other parts of us come, even though we already love them up so much, right? So yeah. How does secure attachment style look like, and how do we come into that relating?
Yeah, thank you. It's a beautiful question. And I just want to normalize this piece, because most of the women I work with have actually done years and years of self-development, and they've got their inner mother, they've got their inner father, they know about their inner child or children. Like they they've in quotes done all of
Yes.
that. And then, and you know, they're living life. Often the women I work with are highly empowered. You know, they're entrepreneurs or got some high-powered corporate job, and they're holding a lot of responsibility. And you know, they've got the money, they've got the job, they've got the social life, they've got the lifestyle, all the things. And then they come into a relationship, and suddenly this secure, embodied, empowered woman that they know themselves to be, the identity that they are familiar with, goes out the door, and they are either like, oh my God, I don't want to go near them, like it's going to hurt me, or like clinging on, you know, with that anxiety. And they come to me and they're like, oh my God, Natalie, like what happened? You know, this is not who I know myself to be. So let me first of all just really normalize that. It's because of this very inner circle, this inner vulnerable space. Everything outside of that inner circle is different. There's an invisible boundary that we set that says if you're outside of this circle, like it's okay really what you do to me. It's okay if you have a bit of a tantrum, or you having a bad day, or you're a bit stressed, or you knock me, you know, on the train or whatever, because I don't really know you. You don't really know me. It's not personal. I'm not gonna let that into my vulnerable space. And we can be our adult selves, our empowered, you know, embodied, conscious selves in that external space. But when we allow somebody closer, we allow someone into the vulnerable space, a lover, a partner, a close friend, then they've come through that wall. They're on the inside, and it's a whole different game. The parts of us that get activated is all of our younger stuff. It's ultimately we revert back to being on some level a child in relationship to our mum or our dad. Now we may not have conscious awareness of that, but if we do, then that's amazing, because that helps so much. And this is why we can feel like a very disjointed version of ourselves when we're in a relationship. And yeah, some of the techniques I use are embodiment tools, like you also work with, Eliska, feeling our emotions, holding space for ourselves. But I also work a lot with the mind, with mindset or psychology, depending on how you want to look at it. Where actually the question was, let me stay on track because I tend to go over the place. The question was, how does secure attachment feel?
Secure attachment. Whoop, whoop. We are the secure attachment party here.
We are. Yeah, thank you. So, secure attachment. So how does it feel and look? For a start, you feel safe. You feel emotionally safe with the partner or the person in question. And what that means, what I mean by safe, is you feel okay to bring all parts of you, even your vulnerable parts. And you feel okay to be your happy, bubbly, excitable self, as well as your quiet, withdrawn, slower self. Like, you don't need to put on an act. You don't need to put on a face. There's just this sense of calm and peace. And like literally my body just spoke for me there. This release of, I don't need to pretend to be anybody. I don't need to try to people please this person, or I don't need to protect myself around this person. I get to just be me and know that I am loved and valued and worthy. And even in my weirdness, like I'm actually pretty weird. You've probably seen some of this already, but off camera, I'm even weirder.
I love our weird flags. Yes, please.
I can be super hyper, full of energy, like literally running around the flat, like, you know, because something excited me, or I got like a burst of energy. I can be dancing. I can get tunes in my head that like last for days and days and days. And then there can be times where actually I'm really quiet. I'm maybe with a vulnerable part of myself, and I'm not necessarily able to communicate as I would do normally. There's times when, so there's a whole range of each of us, who we are. You know, if you're watching this live stream, you probably identify that, you know, there's different parts of you. And secure attachment is going to feel like finding somebody who welcomes all of those parts of you. And that's not to say that they completely love and adore all of those parts. Like, some of those parts might challenge your partner, right? It doesn't mean that they don't love you, they don't want to be with you. But you're okay to know that, I guess you've got enough self-love and self-acceptance to know that even if your partner doesn't completely love and adore that part of you, you've got you in that. Like, it's okay that somebody can't welcome that part of you because you can welcome that part of you. So this would be an example of secure attachment, how it feels on the inside. And I guess on a communication level, like, I used to believe that the perfect relationship or secure attachment relationship meant that you can tell your partner absolutely everything. Like, really, I ran this story for such a long time, that you can tell your partner your every single inner thought that you've got, every single inner fear, every single inner judgment, every single, whatever. And I tried it. I tried it in a lot of relationships. It didn't really work so well. And this actually came from a bit of a myth that is out there in the empowerment world, that we need to be completely responsible, like 100% responsible for our own experience. Meaning that if I say or do something to you, Eliska, and if it triggers you, that's not my problem. That's your problem, and you have to deal with it. But actually, what I learned when we create a securely attached relationship is that if I'm in love with you, and if I want to be with you, and if I want to continue being in relationship with you, if I say something that triggers you, whilst I may not be responsible in a way that I did something wrong, I still need to be responsible enough to care how it impacts you. I still need to say, oh my God, Eliska, I'm really sorry. I didn't know that what I was going to say or do would impact you in that way. And I see it's hurt you. And I see that you're having a reaction to that. Can we talk about it? Can we explore it? Can we see how maybe there's some things we need to do differently in this relationship so that we can actually both be in this in a way that feels good for us? And my partner and I had to have a lot of these conversations where, yeah, I wanted to bring up all sorts of things, and I had to learn that sometimes it's just too triggering for him to receive some of those pieces. And actually, it's not in the highest service of our relationship and us being together for me to share absolutely every single thought and feeling and emotion that goes through my body. So yeah, share with me, what's your experience, because I can
I
see you
love,
nodding.
yeah, I really do. I love that there's one thing that was coming or standing up in that in your share, and that is the like first I don't have to share everything, and the notion or maybe the thought or the myth that we are running. I just like repeating a little bit what I heard you say, and how, yeah, that definitely was something that I thought in the past would be a relationship, or that's what I want. And I'm sure that a lot of people, or women especially, feel that, and also realizing that women and men are different in that way, right? And we can speak every emotion, everything in our women's circle. And that's where actually that belongs. And then with our partners, we stand in this beautiful dance. And I want to add, or maybe like bring up that part when you said, a conversation or a secure attachment or secure relationship looks like a conversation and an offering of loving each other, and loving each other even in the moments that are triggering, and actually offering and learning how to love each other. Because I think also we have this thought that the way I want to be loved is the way that you want to be loved, and that's how it goes. But actually, the relational dynamic is being open and curious about what we are dancing with, what is the triggers, and being able to hold them in a safe, loving way. And that to me is a secure attachment. When these parts of us, the little parts of us that come, we are not like blah, 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 blasting them all over our partner. We own our experience, and also we ask for what we need, potentially not in the moment of the trigger, even before having these conversations, and our partner is able and wants to go to these places with us, or at least hold a loving, safe container for us to feel. Because most of our wounds, probably all our triggers, happened in relationship. So obviously they gonna come up in relationships. And where do they heal? In relating as well, right? Yeah, that's like my whole body is just like, oh, doing this like deeper exhale of, that's how it feels when we are met. And that's so beautiful. And it comes back to our awareness and discernment. Where would you say is that moment of discerning if this person we are probably like maybe choosing to go deeper with, able to meet us? What are, like, I don't want to say green or red flags, but maybe few of these, like, this is how you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. Something that you said that also feels important to presence is learning how to love somebody. So there can be this dance of wanting to go a little bit into the discomfort, because there is a growth edge for us to learn how somebody needs or wants to be loved, but not so much that it's at a detriment to yourself. So your question was like, what are some things to look for? So I encourage actually women to, well, all beings actually, but I work with women, so let me say women. I encourage women to start asking the deeper questions very early on, assuming that you want to be with a partner who can go to those deeper levels with you, can hold emotional vulnerability, can have difficult conversations and take care of you and themselves in that conversation, can ask for pauses when it's too much, take time out, come back. You actually want to be looking for all of those things right from the beginning. Some things, I actually work a lot with online dating because I feel like there's so much that you can actually learn about somebody before you even meet
Ooh,
them in person.
that is interesting. I
This,
was just talking to a dear friend of mine, and I was like, I am curious how it is when you meet someone in the online space, and that doesn't have to be a dating app, but I wonder as well. But also like be connecting in messages and having that spaciousness before the physical meets, because obviously in our feminine body we are running on our cycles, and when there's an ovulation, like, I want to have babies, let's just do it, and we can forget all the red flags and green flags and whatever flags, it doesn't matter, our bodies just want to make love and have like epic sex right now.
yeah,
So I think that's actually really safe to do dating apps and online for a bit.
it's actually one of the reasons why I encourage the women that I work with to use online dating as at least one of the avenues, if not the primary avenue, for finding a long-term lasting love. Because yes, we've got our cycle, our ovulation, our hormones, but also as soon as we meet somebody in person, there's chemistry, be it sort of positive or negative chemistry. Regardless, there is two energetic fields coming together, and you're going to feel stuff, and it will either draw you towards this person or repel you away from the person. I actually advocate that it's really good to have got to know that person before you get to the place where your energy bodies are meeting and all the endorphins and all of the hormones kick in the brain, which are actually designed to take away a lot of our conscious thought and actually designed to just hone in on the animalistic instincts of, is this person a suitable partner to produce babies with? Like, this is what our hormones and our endorphins in our brain, they're literally saturating the brain, channeling your entire focus around, is this person right to, reproduce with? Because that's the animal need and desire. If you're a conscious woman, like, you are, and the women I work with are, then there's so much more we want to think about rather than just, are they going to be good to reproduce with? So it's really supportive to do a lot of that. As you say, taking time in between messages. Ideally, if they've got an online profile, you can actually also learn a lot about them. You can also learn to read their energy body online as well. So you don't have to necessarily go to meeting them if you can already tell online that it's not going to be a good match for you. So you save a lot of time, it becomes a lot more efficient, and you reserve your time and energy just for people that you've already done what I call qualifying. You've already done like your research and qualifying to know that actually it's really worth your time and energy going in person to meet this other being and to spend, just a limited amount of time initially with them to see how things flow. I think there was another question in there, but I forgot. You'll have to remind me.
Um, I think it's connected to the qualifications. It's the quote unquote red or green flags.
Okay.
And you were speaking to it a little bit already, but I'm wondering, how can one tell, if that's like a yes qualification to, let's say, move forward to an in-person date.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the way that you are kind of guiding women to connect online first.
Yeah. So actually, this what I'm about to describe can be used for online or in person as well. And what I would say is you want to get really clear on what type of qualities you want this person to have. So I'm guessing for most of our audience, most of the women watching, you're gonna want somebody to have depth, emotional depth, somebody to be able to hold space for your emotions without fixing you or rescuing you, but just actually to be present with you in that experience. You're going to want for them to be able to do things like holding eye contact, taking turns speaking so that they don't talk over you and things like that. So if you're in person, obviously those are things that you can actually start to notice immediately around their body language. Can this person hold eye contact with you? When you're trying to speak, are they talking over you, or do they pause and allow you to speak? And can you do that for them too?
Do they ask questions? I love that one.
Do they?
Or eventually, at least,
Yeah.
bring the conversation back. Yeah.
You want to have roughly an equal amount of asking and listening on both sides. And that's not to say it's going to be 50-50 the whole way through, but over the duration of the conversation, you want it to be equaled out. And for when you're more online, you can ask questions which are going to evoke these type of responses. You can literally say to them, if I was feeling a little bit sad or a little bit triggered, how would you want to support me in that? And you can,
that's
you can
interesting.
see, like, if someone's a bit like, well, for a start, if somebody responds to you something with like, that's a bit deep for online, isn't it, love? Immediately you've got your answer. You're like, wow, this person can't even entertain the conversation, let alone actually give me a genuine response. So immediately that's a no, thank you, move along. I actually did something similar with this with my partner when we'd literally just been talking like 3 days, and he held me beautifully in it. He said to me, I'd want to know, do you have somebody there to support you who can help you? If you don't, what type of support would you want from me? So immediately he's showing emotional intelligence in in his ability to answer. He's checking to see if I have somebody, which means he's not trying to rescue me. He's not trying to be the hero and swoop in like,
Like
you
a
know, some knight or savior.
prince, yeah,
Like a prince.
prince on a white horse. Let me
Exactly.
save you now. Which
Let me
maybe
just
for some women would be like, oh, that's what I want, but that's the little girl, right? Wanting to
exactly.
be
That's when
saved. So
we know we're in our princess, not in our queen. If we're looking to have the knight come and gallop along on his horse and swoop down and save us. But equally, if I didn't have somebody who was supporting me, he wanted to know what type of support do I need. So he's not presuming to know. You know, this is a great way to find out, does this person presume what you want and need? Do they swoop in with, you know, some sort of predefined idea of what they think you need? Or are they actually having a conversation with you to find out what those things are? Yeah, I mean, there's many different questions that we can ask. It really depends on what the criteria are. So the first thing I work with my women is like, you know, what are your criteria? What's your standards? What are you looking for? And then we can hone the questions around
I
that.
love that. I have a similar process for myself and for women I guide, and that is to connect to the 5 non-negotiables of the non-negotiable values that I desire and want to and choose in a partnership or a relationship and in a man. And then if there's one of these core 5 missing, it's non-negotiable. It means it's a no. And I feel that that's really maybe something that I would love to leave our our audience today, or whoever is listening at any time, with, to really hone in on these 5s. And I'm curious if you have something that you would want to offer besides all the goodness that you've already shared, which is, we can probably talk about hours and hours because there's so much. And that's why you have a beautiful journey and a program and offerings that I also invite you to share with everyone. But is there anything that you would want to, like a cherry on top of this conversation?
Yeah, thank you. I feel like the cherry piece is often, even if we know that we're a high value woman, even if we've done all the work, the self-love work, you know, the really owning how much value we bring to a relationship, there can still be a subconscious scarcity mindset that runs in our programming, where we latch onto a guy, we find somebody or a person of any gender that meet like 60% of our criteria, but one of those big 5 or 2 of those big 5 is missing, and there can be this dichotomy inside of like, maybe he'll grow into that, or maybe
The falling in love with the potential.
falling in
Yep,
love with the
I've
potential.
done that.
Or maybe I can like mold him into this. Maybe he just needs like some training or some education or something, and we can try to make a square peg fit into a round hole. And what I really encourage, and what I want to, you know, as the final words to give to our beautiful viewers here, is that your person is out there. Your person is going to have your top 5 criteria. They are going to have your top 5 non-negotiables. You don't have to negotiate on your non-negotiables. And I would encourage you to go for like an 80% match, not a 60% match. If you didn't get to an 80% match, or even like an 85% match, then there is a better match for you out there. And it may mean that you need to do a bit more self-development work to attract that, or to be open to it, because sometimes I find my women are attracting really great men, but for whatever reason, they're sabotaging them or not seeing them or discounting them. So sometimes it's a question of opening our vision to the beautiful people that are already in our field. And sometimes it is about attracting a higher caliber of person. But I want to take, yeah, the takeaway is, you know, aim for 80 to 85% of a match. When you start getting into that territory, great, then there's conversations about working the last 15%. But if you're talking a bigger percentage that needs work, there's a better match for you out there. So don't lower your standards. Don't get fooled into a scarcity mindset. Know that your person is out there. And if you want to help finding them, then come work with me or Eliska, and, you know, we will support you in that. So, yeah.
Yes, cheering on for all of us. And please share with us how our beautiful women can find you. What are your offerings? Something maybe is coming up. I'm sure you have something incredible coming up. So please.
Thank you. Yeah. So first of all, follow me on Instagram. It's the channel where I'm most active. I'm at its.natalie.ford. I've also got a website, natalie-ford.com. But ultimately, what I've got coming up. So first of all, if you are in London or in the UK, or if you're willing to come to London or the UK, I have an in-person offering on the 24th of February in London. We're doing a whole day of embodied self-connection, emotional release, and shamanic breathwork. So that's the best way to come and get a taste of my medicine. If you are further away or you want to work with me online, I'll actually work with women all over the world, America, Australia, different parts of Asia, UK, Germany, Europe, all the places. I have a number of programs. I'm not promoting a specific program right now. There'll be more birthing through this year, but I offer one-to-one coaching as an ongoing basis. Yeah, that's what's feeling true to come through right now. There will be more programs coming out later this year, but just drop me a DM on Instagram and let's chat about the best way to support you to get to where you want to be in your personal life.
Yes.
And your dating life.
Oh, all of it.
Thank you.
I'm just like, yes, please join Natalie, and even the one-on-one journey sounds incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for this really like high caliber loaded conversation. And I personally really enjoyed our connection, our conversation. This is the second one. We were already live together on your Instagram page, which was a lot of fun as well and a lot of depth. So if you have not seen that one, please hop onto Natalie's Instagram and you can find it in the feed. I will also post it here. And I'm looking forward to more beautiful conversations with you and anyone else who is listening. You know where to find me here on Instagram with all the offerings. And I'm looking forward to journeying deeper with everyone as well. Yeah. Natalie, thank you again so much.
Welcome, my love. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's been a joy chatting with you. Always open to chat further. There's so much deliciousness here that we can keep.
Let's see what other topics are going to come through for us in a conversation. Bye. Yeah.